should see the other guy.
I haven't played around with that much chi in a long time. Still a little stiff. It's coming back to me, though.
Where the hell are we? You think there's a sword here?
Osaka. This is one of Zilla's shipyards. Enra sent a whisperer here if Gozu's tiny mind is to be believed.
And welcome back to Shadow Warrior. Our katana just got a snazzy new effect. Yes, it will do this whenever we pull it out.
Part of trolling, but this is ridiculous.
These enemies may look like your regular shield jerks, but they are anything but. Well, okay, they have shields and they are jerks, but their method of attacking is entirely different. They have a regular and fairly inefficient spear stab, and then they can do this. The little smoke cloud they send forth slows us and makes our aim wobble a bit. It also, and that's probably the most annoying part, interrupts us if we're charging a katana attack.
Hey, guys! Where'd everybody go?
Wang calls them trolls, and I don't see any reason to dispute that, because the best I can come up with is something along the lines of Shield Jerk 2.0. Speaking of jerks, this level has 12 secrets, and the one we just got requires an extremely precise jump, where you need to be exactly on the edge of the crate to actually reach the other one.
We'll need to turn the light on somehow.
Oh, now we know what these pictures mean. They are the face of the Whisperer painted by the demons, with the blood of their victims. I'll be spending this and the next couple of chi crystals to max out my healing spell. This one moves the limit of the amount actually healed from 45 to 60. The healing spell is incredibly handy, but comes with a lot of limits, and the upgrades slowly remove those. And I think that's how the leveling system for the spells should work. Protection, I'm looking at you. Turning on the power doesn't really help us in the long run, but it actually allows us to see shit. This level is kind of interestingly designed in that we'll be spending most of it trying to cross the room we are in right now. This fight we get some new explosive toys to deal with. The gas bombs act pretty much like gas bombs in any other game that has this sort of physics built in. I am again reminded of Painkiller, where they were a lot of fun. In the 2 or 3 levels they were in anyway. You may also have caught a glimpse of the brown rocket barrel. If you shoot that, it just takes off into the outer space. They're a lot of fun if you actually manage to nail a demon above them. Now these yellow dots we see are actually a very interesting thing. They mean I drew my katana there.
Well, if the minions are here, then the second piece must be as well. Cheer up! If your boss wanted one sword, won't he pay you double to find him two?
Possibly. But Zilla's shipyard. Something feels off about this.
I'm not sure how the poster I lingered my gaze on is relevant today. Angry Birds was a pretty big thing by the time when this game came out. By now it's probably forgotten and replaced by another shitty casual game. Hearthstone or something.
Woof. That is one ugly ass shotgun.
Oh, shotgun, you sad, sad weapon. I will probably be spending most of this video lamenting over the shotgun, because it's a weapon I really want to like. It's amazing, it's satisfying to use, and it's really hard to justify upgrading it. By now we already have all our basic guns covered, between the Dagvolver, the PDW and the crossbow, so everything we'll be finding from now on are necessarily gimmick guns. Oh, and mind the fire, we'll be spending a good part of the level trying to get rid of it. Now back to the shotgun. I will be trying to show it off in this level as much as I can, because it will not be quite as useful in the later stages, and unless someone in the thread turns out really eloquent about it, I'm not upgrading it.
Get ready for Lo Wang's 4 hot barrels of love.
Here, by the way, Wang outright lies to us. The shotgun has 2 barrels, the other 2 are an upgrade. It may be a reference to the shotgun in the original Shadow Warrior, which had 4 barrels, but it looked completely different. I'm actually kind of puzzled about the design on this one. The riot gun in the original game was sort of a Gatling weapon with 4 rotating barrels. This one might be based on something, I don't know. Gun nuts in the thread, show your worth. The secret, by the way, is a complete dick. The wall can only be broken by a divider. Nothing else will even scratch it. And the best part is it's nowhere near the worst secret in this
There aren't
level.
any temples around here. How are we gonna find the Whisperer?
Follow the trail of fresh corpses?
It's a start.
The fights in narrow passages present an interesting change from the battles we faced so far, which pretty much always took place in wide open spaces. The focus shifts from avoiding enemy attacks to dealing as much damage as you can as fast as you can, basically kill them before they kill you.
So ugly, they're almost cute.
And the green guys are the environment's revenge on us. These are called mother demons. They explode. They also lay eggs that explode. They can roll at us and explode, and they can send those eggs rolling at us, and you can probably imagine what happens. As I said, they present sort of a shift in design of the environment. Up until now, explosives were our friends. The mother demon explosions, however, do very little to other enemies. And they are prone to be triggered by other explosions, like shooting just about anything in this game. This means we have to be careful when facing them, and keep the environment in mind, as opposed to just using it to our advantage. On the plus side, their eggs being around give us an opportunity to use shurikens for something... Whoops. I totally did this to show that the game tracks its own achievements, and not because the button for that screen is right next to the one for upgrades. Anyway, we are purchasing the Drain Soul perk, which is sort of a safety net. If we ever get to 0 health...
This thing is toxic. Better stay away.
By the way, the statue we just looked at, arguably the most obnoxious secret in the game. Anyway, as I was saying, if we ever get to 0 health and Soul Hunger is off cooldown, which is 1 minute, we'll get 5 seconds of invincibility and increased damage. If we manage to kill an enemy during that time, we get some health back.
So this Enra guy, what's his deal?
Why'd you have to bring him up?
You said he's the ruler of the ancients.
He was also a power-tripping dickhead. But what do I know? I haven't seen him for a very long time.
As always, Hoji is feeding us information in tiny bits. One would think he has some sort of an agenda in mind for Wang. Anyway, this room is a pretty interesting set piece. There's a key shrine at the bottom of it, and in order to get to it, we need to drain the acid 3 times. The fight below is nothing special, so let's get back to the shotgun. Because I'm going to be using it a lot here. It is not a bad weapon, that's the thing I should probably say outright. But it has features that could be rather neatly divided to categories I'd like to call the good, the bad and the ugly. The good, it has insane burst damage output when up close. I already mentioned we can buy additional 2 barrels for it, and its secondary mode actually empties all the barrels at once. As the in-game description says, it's for when you really hate that motherfucker. The bad, this is literally the only purpose the shotgun serves. In a lot of FPS games, the shotgun is your basic weapon. It's a tradition that goes back as far as Doom. Hell, there are players who rate an FPS game on how good its shotgun is. The problem is that you usually use the shotgun when the enemy is upon you and you have no other choice. Except, well, Wang is a ninja, he's fast, he dashes. He can easily avoid the sticky situations which he'd need the shotgun for. And thanks to that, he has a lot more flexibility when using the other guns. The Dog Volver, for example, would in most FPS games be resigned to a row as a sniper weapon, because missing it up close has really unpleasant consequences. An even better example of this could be the crossbow. The thing is, Wang can easily mitigate those circumstances just by pressing a button. Now this is obviously a double-edged argument, after all we can combine the dash with the shotgun for some truly devastating offensive, right? Yes, we can, but it brings us to the ugly. Well, the other ugly apart from the shotgun's design. It so just happens we have a weapon that does exactly the same job as the shotgun and doesn't need money to be upgraded. I'm not saying that the katana and the shotgun are interchangeable. That is simply not true. Most of the time the shotgun does more damage while the katana covers a larger area. The actual issue here is the matter of currency. You upgrade the shotgun with money and you upgrade the katana with karma. And there's simply a lot more karma lying around than money. Also, a lot of the karma perks are simply not that useful and can be safely ignored, while picking up weapon upgrades is something that has pretty deep consequences. I love using the shotgun on a New Game Plus when I can afford it. But as it stands, money becomes a rather problematic resource from now on. The first act was really generous with it, but we will see a steady decline in money pickups, while weapon upgrades will keep getting more expensive. There's also the little matter of S-Wing Hunger being one of the most useful perks in the game, and the fact that on the hard difficulties where the larger damage of the shotgun would really shine, money is even more of an issue because you have to buy ammo, simply because of the blood sponge enemies. Now pay close attention to this fence. Nothing special about it, right? You wouldn't even notice there's something out of place there. Okay, so I love secrets in my shooters. Anything that helps detract from the fact that the FPS is basically a linear genre is a welcome distraction. I also realized that the secrets must be hidden, otherwise they wouldn't be secrets. But there's reasonable hiding, and then there's bullshit like this. I'm not talking about a statue I just picked up, that's just resort of poor planning on my part. Also my favorite fortune cookie in the game, so perfectly true, I'm so glad I caught it on camera. And what the hell is this? This hole opens right when you pass the door that was formerly locked by the key shrine. There's absolutely no indication of it, no sound, no anything. And the fence doesn't even look that different. You can't even see that the secret is there from elsewhere. Well, with one exception. You can see another secret. There was this statue all the way down behind the fence in the first acid room. And here's how we actually get it. It's a bullshit secret hidden behind a bullshit secret. Now normally when I play games like this for the second or third time, I make a conscious effort to find all the secrets on my own. These two I had to look up. That one statue down there has taunted me for hours. Anyway, jump cut back to progress. This is again the room behind the key shrine door, where there was a fortune cookie and a secret on the upper level. This time, however, we want to drain the acid and go down.
That is not orderly at all. Drop and give me 20. Or just die.
I admit I don't understand the joke Wang made here. Probably something to do with the skeletons lying down. I just don't know. What I do know, however, is the answer to a question that has nagged me since Chapter 5. How many shurikens does it take to kill a skeleton? It should be noted that these skeletons may or may not be enraged, which may or may not affect the result. So the answer may or may not be 2. That makes the skeletons exactly as resilient as a Japanese police car. And since those are made from explosive cardboard, well, guess what I'm saying is that the world of Shadow Warrior has never heard of vitamin D, which is kinda weird with all the sushi around. Now this fight is actually one of the most interesting in the game. At the start there are no enemies except for 2 shamans, but there's a shit ton of corpses scattered all around the floor. Given enough time, shamans will keep reanimating them and sending more and more skeletons at you until you're overwhelmed. This fight is essentially a race to kill one shaman as soon as you can, before you get drowned in monsters. This particular run of the level doesn't show it off very well, but I actually managed to die here a couple times when I was practicing for the recording.
You didn't say the magic word.
That being said, those deaths can be fairly easily attributed simply to my stupidity, because I managed to let myself get backed in a corner a couple times. Which is just about the last thing you want to do when you're facing a shaman, because they can poison you and they can keep sending more enemies, so you simply can't move away. Also, not sure if I mentioned that before, but in this fight we can very well see that shamans can and will reanimate multiple enemies at once. And yes, that 1-star ranking was completely deserved. This fight can actually be cheesed fairly easily if you manage to save enough money to upgrade the shotgun. But well, we already know my feelings about that weapon.
That was some serious armor on that Gozu guy.
Why, thank you. Made it myself.
What? Seriously?
One of my talents. Hammer hired me to make all of their armors. To see how he repaid me.
This is something to take note of. Hoji is a tinkerer, an inventor, a machine sort of guy. And since I imagined that making armor for one of the ancients was pretty important, Hoji might have been a much bigger player in the Shadow Realm that he'd want us to believe.
That's where the toxic fluids came from. Again with the dead bodies? What is it with this guy?
Wang pretty much sums up the player's thoughts here perfectly. We just fought off 2 Shamans, now we got to deal with 1. Why? What's the fucking point? The battle isn't very interesting, so let's consider the environment a bit. We just found out that Wang's boss has tankers full of toxic waste. Now this shouldn't really come as a surprise, the man's name is Orochi Zilla. I'm fairly sure Orochi is Japanese for snake. So any of you who thought he was a good guy, please raise your hands and then slap yourselves back to sense with them. Oh, somewhat related. I already explained that languages, unless they are written in English, are kind of... it's all Greek to me, especially when the Greek in question happens to be Japanese. But Nobitsura Kage, now that's kind of suspect. Now I've sadly met more than enough weeaboos to be able to derive an educated guess that Kage is Japanese for shadow. Nobitsura, however, is a mystery to me and Google both. The game, and by that I mean Hoji, translates the sword's name as Shadow Eater, which makes me kinda wonder what would happen if I walked into a Japanese restaurant and ordered one Nobitsura. Maybe they'd bring me some special chopsticks. Now, a couple of seconds ago I made a fairly obvious jump cut, and I think I should explain what happened there. Mostly because it's kind of amusing and stupid at the same time. Oh, but before that, upgrades. Kenshi, 20% more damage with katana special attacks. This is an amazing increase. And gets even better at the next level. It's one of the most efficient perks in the game. Now, since we're not doing anything particularly interesting, that room. There's a secret in plain sight in the room with the tanker.
Killing is easy. Giving a shit is hard.
You're technically not supposed to be able to access it until the end of the level, however, with a bit of tricky jumping and pushing you can. What you need to do is get a barrel, push it near the platform, use the barrel to jump on the pipes near the platform and then jump from the pipes. At the apex of your jump you can grab the pool from midair without actually having to access the platform. Now during that fight I managed to blow up all but 2 barrels.
Lots of weak points in that armor. Maybe that's why they banished you.
Could be. I told you. I don't remember what happened.
Maybe they took your memories and put them in another Whisperer.
You need to willingly sacrifice a memory to create one of those things. I would never do that.
Note what Hoji just said.
I think I found us a way out of this hall.
And yes, the entire point of us fucking around with the fire and acid pool was to get to this switch, which moves the barricade from the very beginning of this building. Anyway, to finish that line of thought, I left 2 barrels there. And somehow managed to get them both into positions from which they could not be moved. It turns out that there are exactly 2 such locations in that room. I guess that makes me a champion at barrel billiard. And as such I spent 8 minutes fucking around the room trying to figure out a way to get them out. And for the final battle of this level we get something rather special. We're going to see a Warlord in their intended role. If you remember, we fought one very early on, and it was more or less alone, or its escorts were easily taken care of. Now, however, we see what the displacement and enraging attacks are for. Warlords are enemies that work by setting up hits for other enemies. This guy thankfully only had 2 shield jerks with him, but it still makes for a fairly tricky fight if you don't know what exactly you're doing. The important thing here is to constantly be aware of where the shield jerks are and where the Warlord is, so he can't drag you into their line of fire. If you remember, one of the shield jerks attacks homes in on you, and the Warlord is capable of keeping you immobilized for quite a while. I like this approach to the large enemies a lot. Instead of just being bigger pools of health and damage, they actually work with the other enemies. Shamans provide reinforcements, Warlords provide command. They also provide heads. This is a weapon we needed a perk for and I will show it off in the next level. Anyway, we killed the last enemies in this level, so what remains is to find the 2 final secrets and die in the process. I talked plenty about how slopes, stairs and even mild descents are potentially lethal for Wang, and if no one believed me, well, I'm going to prove it here. To further add insult to injury, the secret I die en route to is the one that I spent 8 minutes digging around with barrels for. Behold this innocuous staircase. I had to show the death screen, didn't I? Anyway, the issue is this. When you're dashing forward, Wang doesn't take the height into account. So at the end of the dash he finds himself on the same level as the top of the stairs. And Wang takes falling damage like a little girl. There's a mechanic to mitigate that, but I'm notoriously terrible at using it. And with that cheerful note, goodbye.